We are just one wave away from the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass coming to an end. It's been a pretty crazy ride so far with so many great tracks coming over, but let's not pretend it's perfect. The Booster Course Pass has received a fair amount of criticism over its run, and while it has certainly grown on people over time, those criticisms do still exist. So today, I thought it would be fun to run through my nitpicks for the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe Booster Course Pass. As the name implies, these are just supposed to be small issues that are nothing that serious. Trust me, I don't cry myself to sleep over the fact that Sunset Wilds is missing the sunset. As always with this series, the first half of this video are going to be my nitpicks, and then I'll move on to the ones I chose from my community posts. The ones I choose are always just the ones I think are the most interesting to talk about, so there will be a few I agree with and a few I disagree with. It's also worth noting that this is being made before the last wave, so who knows, maybe some of these will be addressed in the final update. When we did our general Mario Kart 8 nitpicks video, a lot of things brought up there actually got addressed in the Booster Course Pass. Clearly the developers are big Odyssey Central fans. But anyways, with that said, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right into the first nitpick. I don't have any particular order for my nitpicks here, so let's just go with the one I spoiled in the intro. Sunset Wilds was added in Wave 5, and it's of course a remake of Sunset Wilds from Mario Kart Super Circuit. From what I know, this is a pretty popular Super Circuit track, and that primarily came down to the track's special gimmick of having the sun set as the race went on. This was a really cool detail and made the track stand out, as most Mario Kart tracks don't change aesthetically like this. When this track was added to Tour though, it's still sunset. Yeah, believe it or not, the Tour version actually stayed faithful to the original appeal of the track. It wasn't until they added it to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe that the developers became illiterate and couldn't read the track's name. This single-handedly transferred a somewhat interesting track aesthetic to one of the most boring in the game to me. It's also not helped at all by the fact that the layout for this track is pretty weak as well, so I think they really need to add this back. I can't imagine it'd be too terribly hard either. I mean, they got it to work on the phone game, so what's stopping them from getting it to work in 8 Deluxe? To be honest though, I think this does have the highest likelihood of actually changing next update. If you went onto Twitter after Wave 5 dropped, everyone hated this track. I'm not kidding when I say every single tier list I saw placed Sunset Wilds at the very bottom. That didn't even happen for SNES Mario Circuit 3, and that track is garbage, so you know this one dropped the ball hard. If Coconut Mall was able to update its cars to actually move when they originally stayed perfectly still, then I think Sunset Wilds has a chance to get fixed in a future update. I mean, then it would be like a C tier track at best, but still. While we're on the topic of Coconut Mall, I have two things I want to complain about here. First off, I'm still not a fan of the escalators not being the same color. I think it's just a bit too obvious which escalator you have to use now, and I feel like a large part of the charm of the originals is the difficulty of knowing which is which. It can be hard to tell what direction the escalators are moving in when they look the same, which I greatly prefer. I know that Mario Kart 7 was technically the one to introduce this change first, but the Booster Course Pass kept it, so I'm gonna keep complaining. The other nitpick I have is a gameplay thing, and it has to do with the ending. Before jumping out of the mall, you have the option to take either a normal ramp or a glider ramp. While it is kinda cool that they added a glider ramp here, I find it really lame that you can't cut this corner here. There's nothing to imply you can't cut over this with the glider, and I think this would be a cute little cut to make the glider path a bit quicker. Every time I play on this track, my dad complains about this specific corner, so I hope Nintendo adjusts Lakitu so he doesn't pull you back so early. While we're on track-specific nitpicks, I might as well get a few of my others out of the way. Merry Mountain's ending is complete garbage. Wow, I love driving in a straight line with no obstacles for like 20 seconds. Woo. More than any other track in the game, this just feels like filler to make the track loop back on itself. I mean, they could have at least put a few snowmen or Shy Guys to dodge, but nope, it's just a straight line. What makes me more annoyed is the fact that this isn't based on a real-world location, so there's no excuse for this section to be like this. The Tour City tracks do have a few portions like this as well, but they at least have the excuse of needing to be accurate. But for Merry Mountain, they could have done anything. Tracks like Mount Wario and DK Summit do the whole downhill snowy mountain thing a lot better, which just makes Merry Mountain seem even lamer. The rest of Merry Mountain is pretty fun, but it ending on such a boring note really brings the whole track down for me. Do better, Santa Claus. Speaking of mid-tracks that are cold, banger transition, nailed that one. Sky High Sundae has one of the worst cameras for any Mario Kart track. In fact, it may just have the worst. Specifically, I'm talking about this part with the jumps. There's just absolutely no way to see where you're landing, and while yeah, this doesn't become as much of an issue once you've played on this track a lot, I mean, how many times are you really going to be playing on this? No one likes it. This is such an annoying track to come back to because of this camera, so I'd love it if they shifted the angle of it. As for an actually good track, Waluigi Pinball is still one of my favorites on the entire Booster Course Pass. Not only does it look really good, but it plays just as good as it used to, if not better than ever. I have no complaints about this track layout-wise, but one thing that absolutely broke my heart when this track dropped was the song. This is the only track in the entire game to share its song with another track, that being Wario Stadium DS. Now yes, in the original game they both share the same music, but we've grown accustomed to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe giving each track a unique song. When Wario Stadium was brought over to Mario Kart 8, the remix was made specifically to lean into its aesthetic more, which means it's not as well suited for Waluigi Pinball. Now don't get me wrong, the song is is still great, but Waluigi Pinball definitely deserved to get its own song. This is one of the most popular tracks in the franchise, and its song is just as iconic, so it was genuinely a bit sad that they didn't bother to remix it. Luckily, no other track has shared a song with another course yet, so let's hope it stays that way. The more songs, the merrier. The last small track-specific thing I want to touch on for my section has to do with the brand new Koopa Cape remake. I said in my last level by level that I think the underwater section could be a bit better if it included the electric zappers from the original Wii version. These were really good obstacles, and it made the ending of this track much more intense. Now yes, technically if they were underwater they'd electrocute everything nearby, but boo-hoo, my Mario Kart isn't realistic, shut up. I still stand by that the underwater section is good as it is, but I think it would improve from having these obstacles added on. While we're at this underwater section, I want to mention an element of it that applies to many of the booster course tracks, that being the half pipe. While I am very happy they decided to add half pipes to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for this DLC, the implementation of them could have been a bit better. Some tracks use them really well, like Waluigi Stadium I think uses them perfectly, but tracks like DK Summit have it rough. For some reason, they could just completely break if you hit them at the wrong angle. They can make you go backwards, lose control of your cart, and most bizarrely of all, just straight up float off into space. Most of the time I see this, it's on DK Summit, but I'm sure it can apply to a few other tracks as well. This is also a personal thing, but I don't love taking them myself. It feels kinda slow most of the time. Again, Waluigi Stadium is an exception, they did a great job with that one. I just hope they tweak the half pipes physics a bit to make it a bit more fun and functional. So far, the most common track type in the Booster Course Pass has been the city tracks from Mario Kart Tour. If you've watched my level by level mini-series on them, you'd know that I'm kinda over most of them. They all pretty much share the same gimmick with the route you go down changing each lap. That is a cool gimmick, but there's a big problem with it. It's a very common occurrence to open up one of these tracks for the first time and just go, "What the hell?" Yeah, the maps here are awful. There's just no way to tell where you're supposed to be going based off of them. That's because they combine all 3 laps routes together, which just makes these look completely incomprehensible. In my opinion, they should definitely just darken out the part that you won't be racing on that lap. It would make the map much more readable and actually useful. Now yes, this isn't a perfect solution, as in multiplayer people may be on separate laps, but you could still highlight the parts individually. At the very least, I think they should implement this into single player. Alright, 2 more small nitpicks for me before we move on to the comments. For starters, I still think it's so lame that the cups for the Booster Course Pass don't have unique trophies. I mean, look at the base 8 cups. They each get such good looking trophies based on their icon, but all the DLC ones for both the original 8 and the Booster Course Pass just use generic trophies with the logo changing on each cup. I highly doubt they'd change this, but I'd love it if they did, because the current trophies are just so boring. My last nitpick has to do with the custom items toggle. Now this is a really cool feature, don't get me wrong. Why is it the default for versus mode? I know this is such a small thing, but I feel like the normal items being the default one makes more sense, because now every time I want to race, I have to remember to change it. Some people might just say, well, why don't you just not turn off any items? But the problem is that it's different from normal items. Most notably, blue shells won't appear on the map with custom items turned on, so I'd like for them to switch the default back to normal items. I guess I could also say blue shells not having an icon on the map in custom items is a nitpick, but I kind of get that. Having 100 blue shells appear at once in a blue shell only match would get pretty bad. But now it's time I judge all of you in the comments. Like I said at the start, I've just picked the ones that I found to be the most interesting to talk about, which means that while I agree with some of them, there will be a few I disagree with as well. Though to be honest, most of you all said stuff I 100% agree with this time around. Our first comment says, they still haven't added more battle mode courses. In the end, we'll have 96 racetracks and 8 battle maps. As you may be able to tell by me making quite a few battle mode related videos recently, I'm definitely hoping that there's a second pass that's focused on it. I guess I can get why they wouldn't add any battle courses to the Booster Course Pass, since this is about racing, so what we really need is a battle pass. I wish more of the Nitro tracks would explore new Mario locations we haven't seen yet, like Delfino Plaza, Bowser's 3D World Carnival, or anywhere from Mario Odyssey. Yoshi's Island was so well made, and I would have loved to see that care for the newer games. I absolutely agree with this one. I've always wished the Mario Kart series leaned into tracks based on the main series more. I mean, it feels so rare when it really shouldn't be. Some of the best tracks are based on actual Mario games, most notably Tick-Tock Clock. That's one of my favorite tracks, and it's based on a Mario 64 course. I was really hoping they'd make a Mario Odyssey track for the Moon Cup, maybe something based on Steam Garden, since we don't have a track similar to it aesthetically. It could still maybe happen, but if they were going to do it, they'd put it in the Moon Cup. I hope the next Mario Kart game gives us at least one course based on Odyssey. I'd love that a lot. Honestly, it feels criminal that no Bowser courses have been added yet. Like, there's so many good ones. Like, really any pick from previous Bowser Castles would be fine. I'm hoping what has been said is true, that we'll be getting a Bowser's Castle, Bowser's Castle 3, in the final wave. This was a very popular nitpick on the community post, and I again super agree. Right next to Mario Circuits and Rainbow Roads, Bowser's Castles are a staple for the series. Each game gets at least one new one, and they're some of the coolest tracks in the game. It's really surprising we didn't get a Bowser's Castle remade in the original Mario Kart 8, the original DLC, and now in the first 5 waves of the Booster Course Pass. And it's extra crazy because we've got 4 different tracks for the other 2 staples I mentioned. We got Mario Circuit GBA, Mario Circuit 3, and Mario Circuit DS. On the Rainbow Road side, we have 8, N64, SNES, and 3DS versions as well. It just feels so uneven because there are so many Bowser's Castles they could use. I have a feeling we are likely going to get a Bowser's Castle in the last wave, but the fact we only got one other one just feels so wrong. Also, as the comment said, it's seeming like it'll be Bowser's Castle 3, which don't get me wrong isn't bad, but not getting a 3D Bowser's Castle remake is really sad. I think if they were going to add new characters, they should have done it from the beginning so that we could have a lot more new characters than what we're getting. I'm still happy we are actually getting new characters though, so this nitpick is kinda small. I both agree and disagree here. I agree that getting more characters would have been great, but I disagree with them needing to start earlier. If they did that, I feel like they'd just stick to 1 per wave and we'd end up with the same amount we're getting now. This is kind of similar to another comment I saw, which said, "It annoys me that the characters were distributed unevenly per wave, especially since Kamek would have fit perfectly with the Yoshi theme of Wave 4. Not really a problem since you can't buy waves individually, just a bit odd to me." Personally, I agree, they should have tried to at least be somewhat consistent. It's a bit odd that the second to last wave will have more characters than the last wave itself. They should have either done 2 per wave for the last 3, or started from the beginning with 1 per wave. Also, yeah, it's really weird that Kamek didn't come with the Yoshi's Island track, seeing as he is very prominent in that series. They should have had more DS tracks. Also, Toad's Factory should have been here too. I agree on both of those. DS has some banger tracks that might not make it now. Most notably, Airship Fortress, Delfino Square, and Luigi's Mansion are fan favorites, and I think they absolutely should have been included. Which makes me so mad that they added Mario Circuit DS instead. Calm down. I'm not gonna get mad this time. Toad's Factory is also a fan favorite, probably more so than the 3DS tracks I just listed. I really wanted to come over for the song alone. I'd love to hear what they do for the remix there. In a similar track selection vein, we have the fact that they only remade 2 N64 tracks and neither were Wario Stadium. They were both ones that have already been done before. I honestly don't have a problem with this. Mario Kart 8 already has a solid amount of N64 tracks with Toad's Turnpike, Yoshi's Valley, Royal Raceway, and N64 Rainbow Road. Add on Choco Mountain and Calamari Desert and we have 6 of 16 remade. Of those other tracks in Mario Kart 64 though, they're mostly pretty mid. We don't need more tracks like Luigi and Mario Raceway, Frappe Snowland and Sherbert Land are boring, Moo Moo Farms is mediocre, and I've never really liked Banshee Boardwalk. That leaves Bowser's Castle, which I would like to see remade, Koopa Beach and DK Jungle Parkway, which I wouldn't mind a remake, but I'm not upset about them not coming, and of course Wario Stadium. This was specifically pointed out by the comment because it's the only N64 course to never get a remake. It's for good reason, this course sucks. It's just so long and boring. We have much better stadium courses in 8 Deluxe already. Personally, I just don't miss it. The Billy and Wario heads on the wall are funny though, I'll give it that. We can still only play up to 48 courses in Versus mode. I imagine this will change in the last update where we'd be allowed to play the full 96, but just in case they don't do that, it'd really suck. Doing a full marathon of every track seems like it could be a ton of fun. I absolutely hate that they haven't put in more items. There's 2 perfectly good slots for the Peach Heart from Double Dash and the fake item box. While I don't think they have to add more items, getting them would be nice. The 2 empty slots in the custom item selection screen are pretty suspicious, but I've been burned before. If I were to choose 2 items, I'd go with the fake item box and the Bowser shell. The fake item box is pretty iconic, and the Bowser shell is just a ton of fun. The fact that the fun sound that plays when you exit the pinball table in Waluigi Pinball isn't in the Booster Course Pass version of the track. Man, I guess Waluigi Pinball was just slacking in the audio department. If you didn't know, the original DS version played a little jingle when you left the pinball machine. But for some reason, this was removed in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Maybe it's because of same-screen multiplayer making the sound a bit confusing, but I don't know, I would have liked it if it stayed. I like the Booster Course Pass, but it is sad that it's further delaying Mario Kart 9, if it will ever come. Honestly, for me, as long as we're getting new Mario Kart content, I don't really care. It is funny to talk about how immortal Mario Kart 8 is, but genuinely, a Mario Kart 9 doesn't need to happen as long as this game keeps getting updated. I don't see us getting another Mario Kart until Nintendo's next console. They should have remade SNES Mario Circuit 4 instead of 3 again. Here's a better idea, they should have remade none of them. The fact that Birdo's colors are listed as Birdo parentheses color instead of color Birdo like Yoshi and Shy Guy do. Yeah, that's pretty stupid. I'm not sure why they did that. I hope they change it too, because now that's all I'm gonna think about whenever I see Birdo. It baffles me that Wave 1 still hasn't gotten a texture update while the rest of the pass looks close to the base game. This was another pretty common nitpick I saw in the comment section, and I agree. While I am very happy with the Booster Course Pass's evolution over time, it feels so weird seeing the Wave 5 tracks compared to the Wave 1 tracks. Like, the Wave 1 tracks genuinely look so much worse. I don't know what they were thinking with that first wave. I'm happy they got their act together in the end, but man, they should really go back to those older tracks. But for our final nitpick of the day, FBI official returns to tell us that there is still, sadly, no Batman. Do better, Nintendo. But anyways, that's it for this video. Are you a big fan of the generic trophies and hate me for wanting them to change? Let me know in the comments. I know this video is a bit shorter than normal, but I needed a quicker one this week because I'm getting my wisdom teeth yanked out here soon. I'm recording this before that happens, so I hope that goes well. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.